Hello there, thank you for staying with us and welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, the call by Nigerians to the UK Home Office to suspend the English proficiency test written by Nigerians as a criteria for gaining admission, fellowships and jobs abroad keeps growing by the day. And with thousands of signatures garnered via a petition online, some Nigerians believe they are being made a cash cow of as learning from kindergarten to tertiary level is done in English language. On the program today, we will take a look at the motivation behind the campaign. We will also be reviewing the just concluded African Cup of Nations competition in Cameroon. But to kickstart the program, let's move to Port Harcourt, the River State capital, where Ebenezer Wikina, who is the founder of Policy Shapers and the convener of the Reform IELTS policy campaign. He is currently on the British Council's UK Africa Youth Advisory Board and is a Mandela Washington Fellow of the US government and Bridge Fellow of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, NESG. He joins us via Zoom. It's a pleasure to have you on the program, Ebenezer. We're having a little bit of issues listening, hearing from you. If you can unmute your mic, Ebenezer, and speak again.
Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Victor.
Of course. So let's just go into this conversation. I mean, we've seen, there was this report, that I did yesterday, talking about what's actually going on. But again, for those who might have missed that, what is the rationale behind the Reform IELTS policy campaign?
Thanks, Victor. So just like we said yesterday, a lot of Nigerians are missing out on a lot of opportunities at the global stage. These proficiency tests, whether it's the IELTS or the TOEFL, cost as much as thrice our minimum wage, and the results for the tests expire every 2 years. And so from the economic angle, if Nigeria has been declared as the world's poverty capital, why should the world's poverty capital be paying up to thrice their minimum wage for an English exam, right? Especially because Nigerians, especially the younger population, about 62% of the Nigerian population, as the UN has projected, is under 25 years. So this particular demographic grew up speaking English, watching Hollywood, listening to songs in the English language and everything, watching cartoons. And so why should this continue? It's gone on for over 33 years. Why should this continue unabated? And so we had thought that, from that particular perspective, there's a need to actually address this issue head on. For me as an individual, I usually tell the story of my great-grandfather who used to be or who was an interpreter for the colonial masters in Ogoni land. And he was very instrumental in helping to transfer interpret the Holy Bible from the English language to the Kana language. And I usually just joke around with my wife, telling her that I'm sure he'll be so disappointed in me because at 29, I can barely speak the Kana language because English is all from school to church to everywhere, really. English is all that's spoken of in life. And so just seeing all of these challenges, seeing that we've sacrificed our mother tongue, seeing that we've studied English all through our lives, whether it's in the WAEC, whether it's in the JAMB, even when you get to university, you do a general course called GST or GS, where you have to still take the English language course. So if you go through all of this for what?
Yep.
Something years of your life, why do you need to still pay that outrageous sum of money to access opportunities and to go through the IELTS or the TOEFL?
Yeah. All right. So we've seen over years, some people have actually failed to pass, have failed this examination. But I mean, so is there any statistics to show that, for those who have passed and have gained admissions into, or who have, accessed these global opportunities that you talked about, is there any statistics to show that those who, pass the test perform better, or does the test really aid their learning?
Yeah, I mean, there's this very interesting statistic from the US. The Migration Policy Institute in 2017 released a study. They are based in the US, and they found out that Nigeria is the most educated group of nationals in the US. You have about 61% of Nigerians with at least a bachelor's degree in the US. That's almost twice the number of US-born nationals in the US. with a bachelor's degree. The US-born nationals were somewhere at 32%, and then you have other foreign nationals at 31%. That just shows you that, if we're able to outdo people in their own country education-wise, why do you feel like there's a need to still test us in the language? And I think the worst part of this whole conversation is that the result for the test expires every 2 years. And if you check the conversation on Twitter, you see people asking several questions. Is it that knowledge expires? Is it that we no longer know how to speak English after 2 years? So that has gone on for quite a while, and that's one statistic we always look out. So there are quite a number of statistics as well that we've put together in a policy brief, which we're using as response to the UK Home Office. Because I mean, two weeks ago, following the buzz on social media, the Home Office got in touch with us. After what, 3 months of following up with them, they eventually got back in touch with us and told us what the criteria is. And generally as an individual, policy shapers as a group, and all the young people who are part of the campaign online. After analyzing that response, we felt it was so ambiguous because they just said we rely on public evidence and we don't have evidence that Nigerians can speak English. Whereas there is a lot of public evidence out there. If you look at the annual English Proficiency Index, which is released by a Swedish company called Education First, Nigeria has ranked between the top 30 in the world over the past 6 or 7 years, right? There's also evidence as well that in the WAEC examinations, English, 87.1% of people who sat for the test, out of 1.5 million people who sat for the WAEC exam, were able to get credits, at least credits in English in the past WAEC. So all of this data we feel just points to so much, and we're putting this together, so that we have a formal communication line open with the UK Home Office.
All right, so it's good you brought the UK Home Office, into the conversation. So, and you talked about their response. So let me just quickly go through, what that response is. So they said, to be included on the majority English-speaking country list, we must have evidence that most people, that's the UK Home Office, must have evidence that most people in the country, or more than half, speak English as a first language. We rely on publicly available evidence, such as official censuses, to make this determination, along with other academic sources. We may also consult the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, where additional evidence is required. And currently, on the information available to us, Nigeria does not meet the requirement. This list is periodically reviewed and updated, and new countries are added if they are found to meet the requirements. So now this is the Home Office speaking, but according to you, I mean, the evidence is out there. So what could be the reason behind the office not seeing all of this that you might have stated?
Well, there have been various forms of campaign on the IELTS issue for quite a while. Many people have pretty much voiced out their misgivings with this particular issue. But I think one of the places where we haven't pushed forward a strong case had been through a policy conversation, which is why Policy Shapers is taking that initiative. And we're putting together a policy memo so that it's not just an agitation. We're not just saying end this, and end that. We're telling you why. We're telling you why data speaks to that point. And we're giving you analysis from the UN, analysis as well from the Home Office itself, showing that over the past 5 or 6 years, the student visa applications and the enrollments from Nigerian students in the UK had actually dropped. Contrary to popular belief, as people feel that most people are going to the UK. There are other destinations now that people are actually going to. And even within the UK, the Home Office is beginning to do something called the simplification of immigration rules. The Law Commission in 2019, of course, with directive from the Prime Minister, was asked to see how they can simplify the UK's immigration rules, to see how they can get the best brains. And trust me, internationally, Nigerians are the best brains you can definitely find. There's data to back that up. And so if really they want to do something meaningful, I think adding Nigeria to the majority English-speaking country list, as well as other Anglophone African countries like Ghana. Ghana recently joined the campaign. Malawi is there, South Africa is there, Kenya is there. Just doing that would go a long way in showing that they actually care about simplifying their immigration rules, and also not showing that they still have a strong colonial hold on the African continent. There's been a lot of conversation about decolonization and how, although colonization seems to have ended, in quotes, there's still a lot of new colonization going on all across Africa. And when you look at that particular list and you see that there's no African country on that on that list. I mean, you might be forced to want to believe that kind of conversation. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why the UK hasn't looked at this for over 33 years. But if there was a time when Nigerians could fly from Lagos Airport to Heathrow and get their passport stamped and go into the country without having to write various kinds of tests, I believe we can come back to that particular time. And I believe strongly there is public evidence to back our claims.
Let's hope the UK Home Office sees all of the evidence and, and of course, put us back to that time when you could actually fly from here to London or Heathrow, and get your passport stamped. But at the same time, in all of this, there are people in the UK, there are students in the UK who actually, or even the US, Australia, and all of those countries where, they make IELTS a requirement. You still have people going there even without writing the examination. Isn't that a plus, or what are they doing differently?
Exactly. I mean, that has been one of the strongest points of our campaign. We're saying that if you have given this directive and there are still universities that are able to work around it and accept students from Nigeria without going through this directive, and these students go on to finish their programs, graduate with high scores, then what exactly are we talking about, right? So that has been one of the strongest points of our campaign, and we believe that it needs to be looked into. In 2020, right? An interesting fact, Victor, in 2020, I had a back and forth with a US university just because of the same IELTS issue. It's an online university. And, what I think was the strongest point for me then was because I was able to convince them, brought the conversation to Twitter. I was applying for a bachelor's program there, a business bachelor's program. And I took conversation to Twitter. We said, no, we can't write this test, makes no sense, etc. And they were willing to change that policy. And currently what they have in place for people all over the world, not just Nigerians, is that if you claim that you have enough proficiency in English, you can take your first course at the university. It's like an introductory course that teaches you about the university and what exactly they do, and your course outline and stuff. And if you pass that particular course, for them, they use that as a measure of your English proficiency. So you get a B, you get an A, you get a C. You can go on to finish your program without having to take the English proficiency test. And we think that's a simple example. There are so many cost-effective ways that if actually universities care about your proficiency, there's so many ways. They can have a quick chat with you. Admissions office can do a Zoom conversation with you. There's so many things that you can do to really ascertain someone's English proficiency without having to tell them to write a test that costs almost twice their minimum wage and have their results expire even before they finish their bachelor's program. We just thought it didn't make any sense to us.
All right, so just as we wind down now, I mean, of course, you had an opportunity to engage the vice president, on this issue, and he made, some commitments, talking about asking some ministries, I think youth and sports as well as education. Since then, has there been any follow-up since he made the commitment?
Sadly, we had followed up a couple of times, sent emails to the VP's office, and also tried to contact people at the federal ministry. We haven't gotten quite a bit of success with that. And as young people, we do like a lot of action. So we just feel why wait that long for the government to act when we have technology, we have social media, all of these things are at our disposal. Why don't we use these things to take our issues directly to the Home Office? And that's why change.org's office in Nigeria helped us, about 3 weeks ago, set up the petition. And we just took the issues into our own hands, really. And using the petition, collecting signatures, using social media to keep mounting pressure, we've been able to get as much attention from the UK Home Office. So, I mean, we're writing a policy brief. We're putting our issues together. We'd also have in copy the Vice President's office as well as the Ministries of Education and Foreign Affairs. It would be great if they're able to jump on this and let's have it at a more diplomatic level. But even if they refuse to jump on it, young people, we are willing to take our destinies into our own hands. And I'm sure that we'll be able to push this through to the end and get the desired victory. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for that victory to come. I guess it's going to be a victory for the whole country, for everyone who is involved, those who are yet to be involved. Of course, it's going to be a victory for everyone, and the drink, would go down well with all of us. But I have to say thank you for joining us today on the program, and sharing your thoughts. Again, I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll come back when this, is done, and smile and laugh over the whole process. Thank you once again, Ebenezer Wikina, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Of course. We'll take a break on the program, and when we return, we'll take a different focus. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's now shift our attention to the just concluded African Cup of Nations, which concluded yesterday with Senegal beating Egypt in the final 4-2 on penalties to take the coveted crown for the first time in their history. And we are joined by Ifrike Inyang. He is the sports editor at Daily Post. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
I'm sure it must have been like a busy 3 weeks for you, monitoring games, writing stories, feeling or experiencing a heartbreak at a particular time, just like all of us Nigerians. But I mean, what was it all? What was the whole event? What was the experience generally?
I'm going to speak from the point of view of a Nigerian, first and foremost, that we go into the competition without much expectation. We didn't think we were going to do a lot because of what happened prior to it. You know, we sacked General Rab 2 weeks before. Eguava took up the team as an interim, and then players were withdrawing from injuries and club issues, and so we didn't think a lot was going to happen. And then we go ahead and beat Egypt in our first game. We beat Sudan. We didn't just win these matches. We played some convincing, attacking, expressive football, and we began to have hope. And just when we thought that we were now favorites to win the competition, we're out in the round of 16 against Tunisia, which was devastating for people that did not have
the complete
hope.
team.
Yeah, no, that didn't have hope coming to the competition.
Okay.
It was a funny thing. Then we managed to stick around with the rest of the competition with all the intrigues, the drama, the heartbreaks, the extra time, the penalty shootouts, and it was a worthy competition for the African continent, a good advertisement of African football. It was a lovely, well done to Cameroon for hosting a good tournament this year.
Any surprise for you during the tournament?
I'll go for, I would have done the debutant, Comoros, who came out from a group that had Gabon and Morocco and Ghana. Ghana left the competition in the first round, in the bottom of that group, But I was mildly surprised by Burkina Faso, who almost got to the finals of the competition, if not for Cameroon that eliminated them, and how far they came and the type of football, how they were brave, in their football. But I was also impressed by Comoros and Cape Verde, some of those debutants that basically sent the heavyweights home,
Yeah, so but there was a lot of hype, around some players, prior to the game or prior to the competition, rather. Hala, for example, we thought we didn't. For me, I didn't even think Abubakar would be the top scorer, so to speak. No, with all due respect. I mean, I was looking at other players, that were hyped before the competition. But was there any surprise player for you in all of this?
Well, yes, you've mentioned Vincent Abubakar, and I think it was such a star of the tournament, because if you look at the semi-final game against I forgot who they played against. Egypt. No, not Egypt.
Cameroon.
Cameroon, the third place match, Burkina Faso.
Okay, Burkina Faso, that's the third place.
They were leading 3-0, and then he started the game on the bench, and then he came on and scored twice. So by the 90th minute, it was 3-3, and they went to penalties, and they won. He was such a huge star from the first game. He was scoring twice. So I think he finished with 8 goals, which has never happened before in the history of the competition. But before the competition, we're looking at people like Mohamed Salah, like Sadio Mane, to Riyad Mahrez. But somehow Abubakar came and just stole the show. And I think at this point of his career, which maybe is a late bloomer, he might be in line for a big move to the Premier League.
Well, I really want that to happen. Because I'm looking at it. So some things also happen. One of the officiating also, we had only one Nigerian referee, an assistant referee. And I'm thinking Nigeria is such a powerhouse, in terms of sports, and we have only one referee in the competition. What does that really say about?
I think it's similar to what is happening with England. If your officiating is terrible in your own league, there is little or no chance that you're going to get that recognition on the continent or worldwide. That's what basically happened. And our officiating has been very dodgy. We need to talk about the MPFL, where most of these referees work, and the quality of officiating, and the drama and the controversies that surround some of these home games, especially. And then you do not expect that when you keep churning out those bad performances, then comes on the continent, you want to be invited. But having said so, I didn't think that all the officials at the AFCON were excellent, you know. Are we going to talk about Gianni Zikaswe, who ended the game like 3 times, you know, and said God asked him to do that? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, he was suffering from a heat stroke. But it was the most ridiculous thing that happened in a tournament that the world was watching. You know, and at this tournament, for instance, we had 13 red cards, which is much more than the last 4 tournaments combined. So even the officials that went were a bit excited. So at the end of the day, at the World Cup, when we don't see African referees, which is now the biggest stage, why were we going to complain if they didn't impress us when it was on their home soil? So that's how it works. If you do, charity begins at home, basically. If you do well on your own top, then you get bigger chances on a bigger stage.
How exciting was it? You know, we had female referees as well.
Yes, very good for African football that we are able to break this mold, and you know, I mean, it's already happening in other continents, especially in Europe. Even in Europe top 5 leagues, you know, have a lot of female officials just, you know, doing their thing and just coming up. So it's good that African football has embraced female referees, and long may it continue.
How do you think? I mean, how would you rate their performances?
Generally, officiating at the AFCON.
Yeah, like the females who took part.
Yeah. The females, I don't know. I think they tend to, maybe because there are not a lot of them, but they tend to, so the sample space is a bit small, but I think they tend to perform better than the males. So I think they did excellently well. I would say they did excellently well.
So, I mean, as we wind down now, you know, the whole thing, you know, Senegal, Egypt, there was a lot of tension. Mane missing a penalty in the 7th minute or thereabout, you know, and the whole game just had its own ups and downs and all of that. We took us to penalties. Did you see that coming? Did you see? And we all felt Egypt were going to win since they had gone into penalties, and we saw how El Hadari was all around Gabaski trying to cheer him up, you know, give him that big brother feeling like, oh, I'm here, you know, you can do this and all of that. But I mean, hey, things just turned out the way most people didn't expect.
We expected an exciting final because Senegal were going to come, and basically that's what played out. I think if Mane was able to convert that early penalty, we would have seen a much more open game. But immediately missed that. It's like the Egyptians tightened up at the back, and it was just waves and waves of attacks from the Teranga Lions, and they met a brick wall, or the fantastic goalkeeping of Gabaski. You know, so I think Mane missed a trick in that early part of the game where he would have opened it up, and then it would have been front to end for both sides. Having said so, I think it's typical of a final to end 0-0 and going to 120 minutes, especially in the African continent, and then go to penalties. The big surprise being that we thought that it's penalties, Egypt are going to get their 8th title. But Mendy, who we'd never rated for penalties, comes up trumps and he just saves one, and then Senegal are champions for the first time in their history, which was really incredible.
Congratulations to them. And lastly, as we go, the tournament awards, how would you say, I mean, were you surprised by those who won?
I think they're controversial. I don't think Sadio Mane should have been player of the tournament. That was clearly Vincent Abubakar, MVP. Goalkeeper of the tournament wasn't Edouard Mendy, it was Gabaski. Then I think Abubakar took the 3rd award. So I think those 2 awards that went to the Senegalese were a bit dodgy. I don't know why and how they decided on that, but other people deserved it.
Maybe because they won the competition. But then, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Analyzing all of these issues. Ifreke Inyang, sports editor at Daily Post. It's a pleasure always to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Well, that's where we are, and we're going to leave you with the Mosley videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.
The call by former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, to President Muhammadu Buhari, urging him to ask the EFCC to stand down the 2.9 billion naira probe against him, kicks off this week's charts in 5th place.
The EFCC had claimed that they recovered a sum of 5.9 billion from my account, which the court found out to be untrue. In other words, they were biased and they prejudged me.
It is followed by the vow by Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje regarding the murder of a primary school pupil by her principal.
How old are you? 12.
Third Sports sees Governor of Lagos, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, chiding 2 out-of-school girls and offering them scholarships after.
Eh? Anthony. How can I get to your parents now? Do you know their number?
In second is Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, speaking on how the state discovered its missing aircraft after 10 years in Germany.
So there's no way that the legacy jet used by the governor can leave the shores of this place without the chief of staff knowing that the legacy jet is being taken away for refurbishment or whatever, as the case may be, as they alleged. That is not correct.
While the parade of 4 teenage suspects for beheading girlfriend comes in first place as the video that tickled the fancy of our YouTube viewers.